Welcome to Audit Archive, where we run you through some of the most questionable and rather atrocious police encounters. Today, we're looking at a few incidents where police officers harass innocent people for no reason and mindlessly attempt to violate their rights. First up, we have an encounter where officers were called to a neighborhood where someone had reported that a male subject was roaming around a house in a suspicious manner. One of the officers made contact with the male subject, who turned out to be a pastor, and questioned him about what his business was, and why someone would report him for suspicious activity. Soon enough, the officer demanded ID, but was promptly told by the pastor that he would not be providing any form of identification.
Howdy.
Hey man, how's it going?
Pretty good. What you doing here, man?
Water flower.
Are they saying that, is that your vehicle? It's not?
It's the neighbor's vehicle.
The neighbors?
314, I'll be on 13.
Okay.
10-4.
You live here?
No, I don't live here.
Okay. They saying that this vehicle is not supposed to be here and you're not supposed to be
Who's
here.
saying that?
They called about it. I don't know who called.
I'm supposed to be here. I'm Pastor Jennings. I live across the street.
You're Pastor Jennings?
Yes, I'm looking out for their house while they gone.
Okay.
Watering their flower.
Okay. Well, that's cool. Now, do you have like ID and all?
Oh no, man. I'm not gonna give you no ID.
Why not?
I ain't did nothing wrong. And did
Well, you look, listen. I'm not saying do nothing wrong.
Doc, listen,
There's a suspicious person.
Look, I used to be a police officer in Goodwater. Don't come here with that. Okay?
Look, man, don't do this to me. There's a suspicious person in the yard, and if you're not one to identify yourself,
I don't have to identify myself. It's not a stop and identify state. That guy know me. He came to my store that got broke in. I live right over there across the street. Who calls y'all?
that's what we got to figure out. But
Yeah,
first,
who calls?
he
Black man
He
out
don't
here
live
warning his neighbor. Why would you think
I'm not
doing
saying
something
nothing
illegal?
about.
You have no right to approach me if I ain't did nothing suspicious or nothing wrong. Told him I'm a pastor. I pastor, so I don't want to hear you.
Sir.
You want to lock me up? Lock me up.
Nobody wants to
Lock me. I'm not showing y'all anything. I'm gonna continue to water these flowers. I don't care who called y'all.
As seen in the footage, the pastor stated that he was not legally obligated to identify himself since he had committed no crime at all. This was indeed true. The officers had no lawful reason to demand identification at this point. All the pastor did was look out for his neighbors by watering their plants, which was far from suspicious or illegal activity. Then the pastor tried to disengage with the officers by walking away, but they decided to unnecessarily escalate the situation and continued to follow him and even threatened to arrest him for obstructing. Watch as the officers eventually placed the pastor in handcuffs, which was yet another blatant violation of his constitutional rights.
Lock me up and see what happens. I want you to.
Hey, man, just come here and talk to us. What?
Water these back flowers. What I'm finna do? Who called y'all?
Well, if you would let us talk to you, we can figure stuff out.
You're gonna catch an obstruction charge if you keep walking away. You can do whatever you want. Do it. Do it.
We're just trying to talk to you, man. Come here.
313, 314, 5.
I'm 10-4. We got one that's not listening to us. Look, man, let me see your phone. Let me see your phone, dude. Just calm down, okay?
No.
Stop.
I like this.
Okay. We're just trying to talk to you and see.
I don't want to argue with you, okay?
All right, go ahead and do what you gotta do,
I don't wanna
Doc.
arrest you either.
Do what you got to do. Go on and
Okay.
lock me up.
Look, just have a
We're-
seat.
It's already
not
a
locked
lawsuit.
up, you're
It's
just-
already a lawsuit,
Yes,
Doc.
sir. Yes, sir.
It's already a
Okay.
lawsuit.
Just have a seat, okay?
Okay? Already a lawsuit.
At this point, the pastor is ordered to take a seat while the officers conduct their ridiculous investigation. It's worth noting that the officers' claim of suspicious activity was effectively dismissed once they realized that the pastor was simply taking care of his neighbor's plants while they were gone. As one would imagine, the pastor was rightfully agitated and furious at this ordeal. He was essentially doing something good for the community, but is now handcuffed and being harassed by two officers, who were out there to merely escalate the situation. Soon enough, the pastor engaged in a heated confrontation with the officers, and what happened next was truly outrageous.
10-26, one black man. Sit down. Sit down, man. Just
Okay, let me call my wife.
you're not calling
My
nobody.
son just got racial profile in Michigan. He's got his master's degree. He's an athletic director. 3 police profiler came in. I was ex-police officer in Goodwater. I told you I'm a pastor.
Okay, look, man.
Who called y'all?
We,
I don't have to ID myself.
you will not listen.
I have a call on you. You have to identify yourself to me. You understand what I'm telling you?
No, I don't. You wait, watch how you want. Take me down, book me. Go do what you need to do. Go do what you need to do.
I think it's going to be.
Please call my wife right quick.
We're going to wait off.
You're
All
not
right. Well, y'all sit with him, Jeremy. I'm going to go over here because it's 6 people over here to call. Hey, you know what? 10-15. 10-15. 10-15. I ain't going to sit there and have that, dude.
Will you let my wife?
No, you ain't letting nothing now.
Appreciate it. Okay, I will.
What essentially happened here was that one of the officers decided to let his ego kick in, and so he swiftly placed the pastor under arrest just because he wasn't happy with the attitude. Following this, the female subject who had initially called 911 to report the suspicious activity approached the officers and engaged in a discussion. She claimed that there must have been a misunderstanding and that the pastor was likely allowed to be on his neighbor's property as they were good friends. This basically cleared everything out for the second time, since it was no different than what the pastor had told the officers in the very beginning.
Do you know that gentleman back?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Does he have
He lives right there.
Okay, does he have permission here to be watering flowers?
He may because they are friends.
Okay.
And they went out of town today. So
Right.
he may be watering their flowers.
Okay.
It'd be completely normal.
Okay, that's fine. If he would have said, "Hey, I got this," gave his identification because he's a suspicious person. He said that's not his vehicle; it's their vehicle.
Okay.
We have a call. Like
Yeah.
we're here because we're called here. I don't know who called, but somebody did.
Yeah, he lives right there, and he would be watering their flowers. This is probably my fault.
Okay.
One would expect that the officers simply let the pastor go at this point, but for some reason, the officers wanted to dig deeper and fish for a reason to extend this investigation even further. Even though the officers were now well aware that the pastor has known his neighbor for years, they proceeded to further question him about it.
Do you know who Roy Malum is? That's the person that owns that vehicle.
Roy Milam.
Roy
Ask
Malum.
him who owns the house. I don't know the guy's name. I don't know who owns. It could be their
Can
vehicle.
y'all leave, Mr.
Step out.
Miss Sister Connie and
What's wrong with you?
my cuffs are a little bit tight. If y'all don't mind loosening them up.
Sure he is.
Listen to me, man. Is that better?
Actually about to go over to his house.
Listen, let me talk to you. Who is Roy Malum? That's you, ain't it?
I'm Michael Jennings, sir.
You're Michael Jennings. Who is Roy Malum? Okay, that's who that vehicle belongs to.
Yeah, that's
who
all I
lives
know.
here?
His name is Roy.
That's who lives here?
That's Roy. I call him Roy and call his wife Connie, and I've been dealing with him for 7 years that I've been living here.
They are friends.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you called not because of the car, but because you thought someone saw someone besides him.
Right. I didn't know it was him.
Yeah, I got to keep their flowers watered. I got to keep their flowers watered while they're gone. You okay?
Yes.
And by the way, I won't get to come to the graduation, but we're going to get your son something.
No, don't.
Listen to me, man. Listen to me.
We are.
Now, watch as one of the officers tried to justify their unlawful actions by claiming that it was mandatory for the pastor to identify himself, regardless of whether he had committed a crime or not. Of course, this was utterly false, since by law the officers require reasonable articulable suspicion that a crime was about to be committed or was already committed in order to lawfully detain a subject.
Anytime the police come out and they say, we want to identify you, you have to identify yourself because there's a reasonable suspicion, there's a reasonable man, there's a vehicle, there's a reasonable suspicion that you're here. It's not a crime.
Yeah.
If you would have said, yeah, here's my name, here's everything, we were like,
I told
okay.
him my name.
You didn't tell me your name.
I decided, he asked me who I was. I said,
You didn't give it to me when I first
Pastor
asked.
Jennings. Pastor Jennings.
That's not a name.
But still,
That's a pastor.
Yeah.
I need your
The way
name.
y'all handle this situation was totally wrong.
Well, listen,
You racial profile.
we're not racial profile.
Yes, you did.
No, sir. We're not about that.
I told
okay?
you I was here watering the flowers. But it's
How do I know that's the truth?
Because I had the water hose in my hand. I was watering all the flowers.
Anybody can pick a hose pipe up.
He is going to be so I tell him I got arrested watering his flowers. 7
Well,
years
look,
we've been
look,
friends.
we got that. Look, let's sit back in here.
Okay.
You can sit down.
At this point, even though the officers had already placed the pastor under arrest, they still had no idea what crime to charge the pastor with. Unbelievably, the officers were caught on body cam deciding the charges.
What are we gonna do with him?
You'll see the charge or
I guess disorderly conduct, the failure to obey a police officer. He refused to give any information.
He said he's not going to give me his social, but he gave me his name and date of birth.
Okay, and she's saying the same thing. She won't give her name.
Her?
Yeah, because he got arrested.
Jesus.
As a result of this encounter, the pastor was fingerprinted, had his mugshot taken, and was booked into the county jail before his wife bailed him out. He has since filed a lawsuit against the department. Let's move on to the next encounter, but this time, the officer involved completely failed to abuse his authority and eventually gave up his attempts to violate constitutional rights. This driver was illegally pulled over by the officer just because he yelled something out of his window. This was already an unlawful traffic stop, and the driver was precisely aware of his rights, so he made sure to exercise them accordingly.
Roll it down?
Why do you pull me over?
I'll tell you that if you roll it down.
Why can't you tell me now?
Because the reason I pulled you over is you were yelling something from your car.
So what?
Huh?
So what? That's why you pull me over, because I'm yelling?
I don't know if you need help or anything.
Oh, I don't need help.
So,
Thank you.
Okay, let me see your driver's license real quick.
I don't need help.
Okay, can I see your driver's license?
What for?
You didn't use the turn signal when you made a turn.
Of course I did.
Let me see your driver's license.
You can hear the sound on the dash cam too.
Let me see your driver's license. You can just crack your window if that's what you want to do.
It's already cracked.
I can't see that.
Well,
This thing.
it doesn't matter. Here. I don't wish to answer questions.
You have to let me know if there's a weapon in the car. Did you not take the class?
I did.
Did they tell you you have to tell them?
When you demand identification, I have to display this. That's what they told me in the class. That's what the law says.
The officer wants to take a weapon.
And actually, if I don't display, there's really not much you can do because there is no penalty attached to that. I have to carry this if I'm carrying this.
Are you carrying?
I don't answer questions.
Okay, so if you have a weapon in the car, then what?
You got one on your hip. So what?
As seen in the footage, the officer asked the driver to provide him with a driver's license, but when this backfired on him, he proceeded to falsely accuse the driver of something completely random, but failed yet again. Things weren't looking good for the officer at this point, but he continued to try his best to find a reason to violate the driver's rights anyway. Watch as he now tried to accuse the driver of being under the influence of alcohol.
Do I smell alcohol in your breath?
No, you don't.
How do I know?
Because you can't smell my
I
breath?
have to smell something coming
Oh,
out.
really?
Let's see. Let me do some field sobriety.
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, where are you coming from?
Huh?
Where are you coming from?
You saw me where I was coming
No, I
from.
just saw you driving down.
Are you done with this?
I'm done with that, yeah.
All right, cool.
Where are you coming from?
I don't answer questions. I've already told you. Let me know when I'm free to go. What's your name? Your name? Sheriff? That's your name? Sheriff?
Right about it right there.
I'm not familiar with the English alphabet, sir. Okay. Can I have an incident number, please? Oh, a ticket. A ticket, okay.
The officer's negligence was very evident, and it became clear that he was frustrated over the fact that the driver knew what his rights were and appropriately exercised every single one of them in this situation. So the officer continued to create as much trouble as possible by asking the driver to present different documents repeatedly, even though they could have easily been verified by running the driver's name through the system. It could be said that this was essentially a form of revenge against the driver, since the officer now had no other means to abuse his authority.
Okay? I don't want you exiting the vehicle because you have a weapon in the car.
Did I exit the vehicle? Did I exit the vehicle?
Give you a heads up.
Did I exit the vehicle? Hey, can I? You do have a dash cam, right? Very good. I'm sorry?
You have insurance on the vehicle?
Yeah.
Can you show it to me, please? It doesn't come back.
Of course it comes back.
Not on my system, it doesn't. Also, it's not typical behavior for somebody to be yelling out of the vehicle. Have you had anything to drink tonight? Is that your current address? 1622?
Is that a question?
Yes, sir. Is that your current
Do
address?
I answer questions?
Okay, I'll just assume that's incorrect then.
And why would you do that? Did you read my address on the driver
It
license?
didn't have an address. It didn't have an apartment number on your driver's
Of course it does.
Let me see. Can you verify?
You've already seen it. I've already complied with that part.
I don't. But I'm just saying, it didn't have an apartment number.
Of course it does.
On your driver's license.
Man.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Finally, the officer returned to the vehicle with a written warning and refused to engage in conversation with the driver. Then, even though the driver requested a supervisor, the officer stated that he would not do that whatsoever and dashed back to his patrol vehicle right after.
Yeah, I say that I've never met anybody quite like you that would yell at an officer doing their job. But
So,
you have a great
let
day.
me
There's no
understand.
warnings, no fines, no penalties.
May I ask you a question?
There's questions on there. There's the address.
Yeah,
There's
no, I
the-
have a
there's
question.
an incident
Can you
number
get your
on the thing right
supervisor here, please? Is the stop over?
there. The stop is over. You may leave.
All right.
This incident simply goes to show how common it is for officers to breach constitutional rights. Such tyrannical officers end up getting caught off guard when they cross paths with people who know their rights. Moving on, we have one of the most bizarre traffic stops out there. An officer pulled a supercar over and claimed that there were several calls against the driver, but added that the calls were not recent. Right off the bat, this made the traffic stop completely unlawful, but the officer continued to come up with a bunch of different excuses regardless.
Why did you pull us over?
Somebody call out saying you're coming by because you have many calls. You know that, right?
I have many what?
Calls, many people calling about you.
For what?
Just the way you drive.
That's
You didn't know that?
Well, that's impossible. I just left my house and I've done the speed limit all the way here.
Not today, like before.
So what's that? Oh yeah, driver's license. Oh, we got backup now.
So I don't know if you can help it or not. Don't put that camera on my face. You put it somewhere, but don't do that. It's just.
I'm just holding it right here.
Okay. Keep the noise down. If that's something you can manage yourself.
The officer first claimed that the calls against the driver were about the way he drove his supercar. Now, the officer switched the story up and alleged that the supercar was apparently too loud. Adding to this, the officer also had an issue with the fact that the driver was recording the encounter. Watch as the officer wasted the driver's time and eventually let him go without explaining anything at all.
You're getting reports of that, so.
Reports of what though?
Loud. It's loud.
Well, I turned it off, but here, listen to it.
That's loud.
That's completely legal though.
You're good. But you don't have to put the camera. You can put the camera somewhere else.
I'm holding it within. I'm not holding it in your face.
We as police officers, we need to see hands. It's safer for us and for you, right?
Yeah, but you've been
okay. Have a good day.
It's quite obvious that the officer pulled over the driver solely based on the type of vehicle he was operating. It seems unlikely that there were any other grounds for the traffic stop, since no warnings were issued and the officer simply walked away after telling the driver to control the noise. Be sure to check out our previous video, where we run through many other outrageous cases.